inspired by the true story of one Jewish family separated at the start of World War II and determined to survive and reunite. We're going to show a clip before I introduce them. We are the lucky ones, LIPEZ, and stars Logan LERMAN and Joey King.
Thank you for having us.
Eric, let me start with you. This is obviously based on a true story, a book by Georgia Hunter about her ancestors who were separated during the war. Separated is the key word there. We're talking about different locales. What was it like adapting that story into a limited series?
It wasn't easy, but I would say when I read Georgia's book, I read it in probably 24 hours. It was one of the most incredible stories I had ever read, and I knew it was a true story. And I think what I found so incredible as somebody myself who I felt like I had a pretty good Holocaust education, this was a window into that period of time that I had never really seen before, and through this really intimate lens of this family. But the fact that their storylines take them across 4 continents, 9 years, it was both what was so exciting about getting to adapt it, but also what was absolutely daunting, because I think that breaks so many conventions of what TV typically is, which is you have your standing locations, you go back to the same places, you don't sort of follow that many characters, and so it both felt like the opportunity of a lifetime, but we really had to figure out how to wrangle those storylines and find the cohesion, even though the time that our brilliant cast gets to act together is actually pretty limited. That's one of the scenes that we get to see them together very early in the series, but then everyone is scattered, and so it was just a balancing act. We had an amazing writer's room, and Georgia's book was the ultimate guide, and we always knew where we were going, which is one of the biggest helps when making a television series. Is sort of when you don't know your destination, that's when you get in trouble, and we knew where we were going, so we just kept that in mind every step of the way.
Logan and Joey, talk about forming that family. So it sounds like you did have an opportunity to at least be together before you were apart.
Yes, we had a good amount of time to rehearse. Joey and I go way, a good amount of time. Well, Joey and I go way back. But
wait, how do you go way back?
we met, like, funny enough, in something similar environment like this, like 11 years ago, on a panel, like a Q&A for something back when.
Wait, Joey's only 24, so that's like when she was
Yeah, think about that.
It was like 14 when we met.
Yeah.
Holy crap, okay.
It was like, it was crazy. It was a really long time ago. We were both much younger, but the experience was great though. We had a few weeks of rehearsal and I had a couple months to prep. But when we were in rehearsal, we were all together as a family. Tommy Kale, who directed the first episode and the last episode, really kind of crafted this beautiful rehearsal environment for us to get close, live together, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We constantly rehearsed, constantly talked about the work, became a family, and it's really testament to his ability to get us, together, and to your ability as well to cast us and see these personalities like working well together. Somehow, it just was magic when we were together.
Joey, do you feel like it's a kinship to this man?
I feel mostly connected to you guys, except for right now. It's so lonely over here. Me and all my friends over on this side of the flowers. I was really grateful to feel so close to our cast and our crew. And when you have someone like Erica at the top, someone at the top really sets the tone for how something like this goes. And when you have the kindest and most talented people at the top, that trickles down to everyone feeling at ease and being able to bond and connect in a way that feels natural. We were given the luxury to focus on creating bonds with each other because we were so confident in our leaders, and that's a beautiful feeling. And Logan is like family to me in real life, and so this show, getting to play family with you, even though we don't share too much on-screen time together. There's so much about this show. Every piece of the show, I could go on for a very long time about why the show means so much to me and each moment of why it means so much, all encompassing. It's just a huge part of my heart.
This is for all of you. Why was it important that the regular cast all be Jewish actors?
You know, it felt just so natural and organic to this series. We were making a Jewish family who was going through this chapter in history, and so it was something we set out to do, and it was, we also always, Tommy and I always talked about that we wanted to find the most incredible talent on screen, but also the most incredible humans off screen, because this is really daunting material, and we knew we really just needed the best people to show up for it. And we also really felt like we wanted a group of people who felt a deep need within themselves to tell this family story. And when we met Joey and Logan, that was so clear. And then when we built the rest of the ensemble, it happened very naturally. And we are really proud of it because it did make for a very special filming experience. Particularly some of, like, you know, we did get some opportunities to film like a big Passover around the table. And there was just such a very natural Jewish energy around that table, a lot of laughter, a lot of opinions.
Natural Jewish. It's such a funny thing to say.
I know.
An ephemeral quality. There.
Joey, your character, where's her place emotionally in the family? Who is she to this family?
So Helena is the youngest Court sibling, and I think when we meet Helena, she's just a spicy, spunky young girl who is just, you know, figuring out life. I mean, she's a little bit naive, but also very confident. Like, she's young, and I think that we fall in love with her spirit before the war, and then she gets thrust into this position of having to grow up so quickly and become this kind of orchestrator of safety for a lot of the members of her family. You know, she is orchestrating, you know, moving one family to this camp and this workshop or factory, and then, you know, her niece to this place. It's you know, she takes on a lot of stress in the family. And it's really interesting to see her go from such a young woman who's just has so much life ahead of her to becoming this, like, person whose biggest weight of the world is keeping her family alive. Yeah, her journey and her arc is really, really moving.
Logan, your character, he's obviously quite worldly. He's the most, would you say, the most sophisticated of the family?
I don't know about that. He's, look, I could say he's much more talented than I am as a person. Adi was a real person. Georgia Hunter, who wrote the novel, I play her grandfather, and he was exceptionally talented. We use his music in the show. He was a composer. Several of his pieces are in the show. I had to learn how to play them. They were very difficult. He's outgoing. He can command a stage, a room. He was just an incredible person overall, and energy. But I don't know, everybody in this family is wonderful. Every person. It's weird to talk about them as characters because we played real people, based on real people. So I was amazed by all of them. So I can't really say he was the most. There's a talented family, smart, talented.
Where did you shoot this?
We filmed primarily in Bucharest, Romania. We were there for, was it 9?
Forever.
It's a pretty long time. We filmed there for the bulk of it, and then we were in the south of Spain for about 6 weeks to film a lot of the countries that Adi's character goes to over the course of the series, as well as some of our Italy locations. We're cast up into the mountains.
When you started, did you have discussions with the actors about quite literally finding their voice, finding that accent? Was there a chance that maybe you wouldn't do it, or?
I lost a lot of sleep leading up to making this, thinking about that, because it definitely was one of the things we had to solve and figure out. I mean, I think what we loved so much about getting to tell this story was the global nature of it, but that does bring up logistical issues of people in different countries speaking different languages. And so we very early on found this incredible, Tommy is very close with his dialect coach, Deb Hecht, who is just one of the greats. And she had this vision of what she sort of called a Polish inflection. And it was something that sort of would, essentially whenever characters were speaking Polish, it would have that accent, and but the English, and it was a choice we committed to, and then the cast worked with Deb, and they all have the most incredible ears. I mean, they were all flawless.
We worked with each other a lot too. I mean, once we got together, we really, tried to find a middle ground as well. This is a pretty big cast. I mean, Israelis, Brits, Americans, so we really had to try to figure that out.
It was cool. Deb, she talked about, because we were trying to make a family that sounded like each other, and our family consisted of Americans and Brits and Israelis, and yeah, I loved hearing Deb talk about this, because she said there was an accent that sort of lived in the middle of all of those accents, and that's what this family sounds like. And so I think the hope is you sort of tune your ear to it in the beginning and then almost forget about it over the course of the series. And that's my experience of listening to you all.
Before I got into the series, I did have a fear of, I knew this was a Holocaust drama. This could be a Holocaust drama. And so I worried about, is there going to be the violence? Is there going to be some just heavy scenes that just going to be gut-wrenching to watch? You don't necessarily see violence in this. I mean, I'm through the first 5 episodes. You're still wearing that white shirt, by the way. And that's another. Is that by design? That you covered that?
Yeah.
So what we always said about with this series is to tell this family story very truthfully and to the history of what happened to them. And we thought the gift of this series was to be able to tell a story through their intimate lens. And there are some really difficult moments, and there are some pretty harrowing moments, but I think what we always felt like, I have pretty strong feelings about gratuitous violence, and I think actually sometimes evoking violence without seeing it can be just as scary. And I think what we were, particularly in the early episodes, when the violence isn't happening to the family, but it is starting to escalate around them, and that danger is coming, that your relationship to violence is people don't usually just stop and watch it and the camera lingers on it. It's like, it sort of is happening around you, it's happening as you pass by. And I actually think that is so much more unnerving and truthful than just lingering on it unnecessarily. So that is always what we talked about when filming it. But, you'll see as the series goes on, what happens to the family is what we show. But the nature of this family story is that they did not also end up in the death camps, and so I think what is also very interesting about this series, and thankfully we have had some incredible series that do show that experience of the concentration camps, but there were a lot of experiences of Jews in Europe during that time, and I think this family's experience might be something that people haven't seen before. And I think it's really important to see this story too, and I hope people will tune in.
You two, did you have fears about potential violence that this is happening? Did you have fears about that?
Fears
About how heavy this could potentially get, and there would be violent scenes.
Oh yeah, but that was more so for your journey than on.
Yeah, like Erica said, it was always very clear with the intention from the very beginning that we wanted to imply more than show, because it is more unnerving sometimes. And I think in our show, it does a fabulous job of portraying that disturbing nature of what's going on without just fixating on only that. But there was, there's times too, like in some of the later episodes, you'll see, there's certain things that it's like, we don't want to fixate, we don't want to get too gratuitous, but it's like, what's that line? Like, we need to show X amount to understand the impact of it, and I think that was balanced so beautifully. But in terms of the heaviness emotionally, of course, but I think as actors anyway, the least we can do is feel the heaviness and feel the emotion. You know, we're actors, we're portraying the experience of going through the Holocaust. We have the luxury of not having gone through this. We get to go home after work every night and sleep in a nice bed, you know, like, so feeling the heaviness of those emotions during those tougher scenes it's the least we can do, and it's very important. It's tough, but like, of course, it's so important.
Logan, what was your reaction about this dropping at a time when anti-Semitism is at a rise in this country? What did you think about it?
When I think about it, I mean, when I'm working on a project, I'm not really thinking much about the big picture of how it lands in the time period it's released. Just connecting with the truth of the scenes and the material. And, you know, it's crazy, the timing and everything that's going on is really tough to watch. But I hope that this show promotes empathy for all, and you know, it's really about what happens when hate goes unchecked, and you know, about the human suffering in the middle of these conflicts. And I hope that people empathize for people suffering.
Last question. Obviously, this is a heart-rending tale. Where did you find the beauty?
I mean, I think what I loved about getting to tell this series is there is so much love and laughter and joy within this family's experience, and I think despite what is happening to them, I think the choice they made every day to live, and I mean, you know, given what they were up against, and when I say live, I mean connect with each other, be there for each other as a family, as siblings, as partners, as parent-child. It just was a very moving thing to read in Georgia's book and in sort of her research, and I think, I always feel like this series is, of course we are portraying the harrowing moments of survival and of what they were up against, but it's so much about the moments in between where they just have a moment to be human beings, and that was, I think, it was one of the biggest pleasures to write, and it was really amazing to watch you guys bring those moments to life.
We were the lucky ones. Thank you so much. And now, over to Antonia.
Bye, Joey.